Hello, is it live? It's not appearing. Okay. Hello, live ఉందండి ఇది. Hello. Fine. I think it's okay. Sorry, friends. There is some signal problem, and so there is some miscommunication between the management and me. So, in this class, we will be discussing about the social anthropology and the meaning of social anthropology and its importance of social anthropology and how it deals its significance in the discipline of sociology, right? What is social anthropology basically indicates that it has two words. That one thing is that social as well as the anthropology, right? I know anthropology is a discipline that deals with the study of human societies, and it deals with the study of human evolution in different phases of in its evolutionary history. But whereas when it comes to the meaning of social anthropology, it deals with the understanding of studying the the cultures and studying the cultures and how the people behave in a particular social setting, and the influence of culture on the people, and how people influenced by those cultures, and how people influence the cultural setting, and so on. So this is a basic understanding of social anthropology. So in this class, what we'll try to do is that, and we'll be trying to understand the what is social anthropology. We'll be trying to understand what is cultural anthropology, and we will be trying to understand and how social anthropology developed over a period of time. So, to understand the emergence of social anthropology as a branch of anthropology, and we need to explore the historical facts related to the debates between social anthropology and cultural anthropology. The term social anthropology has a historical background in the field of anthropology, and we need to explore to some extent the theoretical framework as well to trace the emergence of the term social anthropology. Along with this term, the cultural anthropology, we would also come in our discussion as these two terms have a close interpretation. Sometimes these two terms overlap in the field of practice. Though we have subjective debate over the term social anthropology and cultural anthropology, sometimes we find interchangeable use of these two terms. People use the term social and cultural anthropology to replace these two terms. But historically, there is a debate over the ideology of these two terms. And as a student of anthropology, we need to know these issues. Anthropology basically has two dominant schools of thought. One school, and of course, it is predominantly dominated by British school of thought, and other one is the American school of thought. British school of thought, branches out anthropology into three basic branches, such as biological or physical anthropology, social anthropology, and archaeology. And American school defines four branches of anthropology, such as physical anthropology, cultural anthropology, archaeology, linguistic, anthropology. Thus we see that there are many issues related to the term social anthropology, and as it is surrounded with many historical debates, and we will try to unfold these debates in the present class. As regards the understanding of social anthropology, the most common and basic definition of anthropology is to say that anthropology, as I said, that is the study of man across time and space. So anthropology deals with every aspect of human being. It not only studies human beings in present context, but also human beings' journey through the path of evolution from Pleistocene period to the present society also. So it also tries to trace the future path. So anthropology basically concerns with the study of evolution of human societies from prehistoric times to the present times. So how human society evolved over a period of time, how human beings evolved over a period of time, whether it could be the physical structures and whether it could be the cultural structures and so on. So it studies human being as a whole, and it also studies, it tries to study differences within it. Man is the most wonderful creature in the world with cultural, social, and habitational variation in it. Unlike any other species, Homo sapiens and represents a diverse population in itself in respect of culture. Culture variation gives a diverse look into the diverse look to the same species, Homo sapiens. Biologically defined, Homo sapiens are an interbreeding population, but culturally, man creates different rules for marriage. So, same species does not contain interbreeding population. So cultural prohibition defines mating pattern. So likewise, biologically, all the members of the same species, that is Homo sapiens, have equal potentialities in its individuals. But human being differentiates themselves on the basis of race. We may mention many such examples that convince us to define anthropology as a unique science to study man comprising all the differences and similarities within it. Anthropology is to find out the differences, and at the same time it tries to find out the general characteristics within the same species, that is Homo sapiens. Anthropology professes systematically to research all the manifestations of human being and human activity in a unified way. So man live in society following a certain particular cultural pattern. In different societies, the cultural norms differ. Generally speaking, social anthropology deals with the study of this aspect of man. But as a discipline, social anthropology has a different meaning in different countries. Reflecting diversity and variation in human thought, we find a different thought surrounding social anthropology. The term social anthropology is generally used in Britain and other Commonwealth countries. And with support from Professor Levi Strauss, the term is also extensively used in France, Netherlands, and other Scandinavian countries. Social anthropology refers to different meaning in the different countries like USA, England, other countries of European continent. So we often see a diverse nature referred by the term social anthropology in different countries. In Great Britain, anthropology refers to physical anthropology, which studies biological aspect of man. In England, social anthropology is understood as ethnology or sociology, or as in other countries of the European continent. In short, in Europe itself, social anthropology has two different meanings. On the one hand, in USA, social anthropology is considered as a larger and comprehensive discipline. It covers up the study of man from different aspects. It not only considers man as a sociological being, but also puts emphasis on the cultural aspect. My dear friends, I would like to emphasize here is that social anthropology basically concerns the study of culture, the study of the influence of culture over the human societies, and how the human societies again interact with the culture, and how they define and redefine the cultural forms of existence. So, in a way, that social anthropology tries to understand that how man behaves. In a particular setting, and how it he differentiates uh, from the understanding of cultural aspects. So in the 19th century, ethnology was the term used instead of social or cultural anthropology. The Greek term ethnos means race and logium means study. Thus, ethnology was referred to be the study of diverse behavior of ethnic groups. Cultural distinction covered a major part of such study. Along with this, it also studied culture change, right? So sometimes social anthropology is defined in the context of ethnology. Ethnologists and who concentrate on social relations such as family and kinship, age groups, political organization, law and economic activities, and what is called social structure and is called social anthropology. So, supporting the position of Radcliffe Brown and in the English anthropologist, and who defined the usefulness of these historical studies in anthropology and concentrated on social structure. My dear friend, I would like to emphasize here is that, and this social anthropology, and though we in the present times we define anthropology and sociology as two different disciplines, but however, in the recent past, and particularly in the 18th century and 19th century during the colonial times, and these two disciplines were merged together to study not only the evolution of man, but it also study the cultural patterns of the human societies. So colonial rule, for instance, in Indian context, and they were so interested in studying the human societies, and particularly Indian society, and for that they engaged in understanding the cultural aspects of that particular society. In other words, when Britishers came to rule India, so they were so keenly interested to study the cultural patterns of the Indian society, because unless and until and one studies the cultural pattern, and understanding the cultural patterns of the particular society, one cannot govern that society. So governing a particular society, the administration requires a proper understanding of the cultural patterns. So in a way that the Britishers were so keenly interested in studying the cultural patterns of Indian society. Therefore, they engaged, they engaged a lot of, they engaged and also encouraged social anthropologists, and to come from, they invited, many social anthropologists from the Western world to India to study Indian cultures. So, in a way that this understanding that social anthropology is a non-historical in their view, while ethnology is historical in a sense that they study the present societies in a way that the social anthropology basically concerns to study the what's happening in the society, and what happened in the past, and what can happen in the future, right? It just basically tries to understand the the cultural patterns, such as the eating habits of the particular society, the language of the particular society, and the marriage system, the kingship system, and the different relations, that exist in among the particular communities, and how that particular community is differentiated, differentiated from other communities, and so on and so forth. So social anthropology, the basically concerns to study the cultural aspects and the social structure of the particular communities. So, my dear friends, and after studying this, and let us try to understand what is cultural anthropology, so the split in the cultural, socio, and cultural anthropology is not readily accepted all over the world. So we have already stated how social anthropology has different terms of reference in different countries. Likewise, the term socio-cultural anthropology has also different domain of practice in different countries. Cultural anthropology is a term of reference popular in America. For instance, in America, the stress was on cultural anthropology is laid with the objective that man is more than merely organic man, but a cultural being also. So, culture of a particular society helps us to understand the civilization irrespective of time and space. So, American cultural anthropology also includes archaeology, and who laid stress on the cultural studies, created a speciality to American school of thought, and which resulted into the creation of ethnology, that is the science of people. So, in other words, that American sociology, particularly the sociological association, they were so keenly interested in studying in coining the terminology of social anthropology. And whereas when it comes to the British side, and they use the word social anthropology, whatever the nomenclature may be. That the point is that the both studied the same aspect, but with a different nomenclature. So what I'm trying to indicate here is that so the social anthropology has a different meanings in different countries and different contexts. However, they all studied the same aspect with the different approaches. So that's a meaning that one can derive from this understanding, right? So anthropology as a knowledge and about the cultivated man, that is a knowledge about those aspects of humanity which are not natural, but which are related to that which is acquired. According to, for instance, and different scholars, and for instance have cultural anthropology, few define cultural anthropology as to study the ways man has devised to cope up with his natural setting, and has a social milieu, and how bodies of customs and learned, retained, handed over from one generation to the next. So, in other words, that cultural anthropology basically concerned that how the culture is created, right? So how the culture is created, and how why the culture is created, and how the culture is created, and how that culture is redefined and reproduced in different social contexts, and how this culture is handed over from one generation to another. So what are the means, what are the procedures, right? For instance, and during the past civilizations, and most of the our cultures were not written, right? So not written in records, but they are orally transferred and transmitted from one generation to another. So this oral thing is very much a big, important aspect to cultural anthropology. They were interested in studying that, and how the culture is being transferred from, or transmitted from one generation to another, and how that culture is cultivated, and why that culture is important in human society, and can a man live without culture, and if a man lives without culture, what happens in that particular society, and what happens if a man lives with the cultural aspect, and is it a usefulness, and or does it create any harmfulness to the society, or does it create any unhealthy atmosphere, relations between the individuals in society, and so on. So this cultural anthropology basically tries to understand what this culture is all about, why this culture is so peculiar, why this culture is so unique, why this culture is so important and unique to particular society. And I'm using the word unique because a community is distinguished and defined, by taking the major components of culture. In other words, a community can only be distinguished from another based on the aspects of culture, right? One community follows one type of culture, and another community follows another type of culture. So the communities are distinguished based on the aspects and characteristics of culture, my dear friends. So this is where the social anthropology and cultural anthropology basically tries to understand what distinguished from a community or a society from one to another. So there's a different understanding that one can derive from the discipline of cultural anthropology. So generally, you may get doubt that what is the culture. Culture is a way of life, right? Culture is a way of life. The way you speak, the way you eat, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you behave with others in the community, and how others have behaved with you determines based on the cultural aspects. So everything is culture. So if a man born in that culture, in that particular culture, he's socialized based on the cultural norms. He's socialized from his childhood, based on the cultural norms and practices of the particular community. So the culture plays an important role in the human societies. Suppose if you don't have a culture, so what happens? If you don't have a culture and everyone follows disorderly. For instance, so you take the example of traffic on the road, right? So if there is no traffic signal on the road, right, what happens to everyone will go according to their own convenience, and according to their own ways. So what it creates traffic jam in the society. It creates a lot of accidents in the society, right? So on the roads. So suppose if you learn that traffic signal system, that if everyone learns the traffic signal system, so there will be a mutual understanding between the commuters, between the travelers, so that if if there is a red signal, right, everyone would stop, and whereas others would be allowed to go, right? So if there is a green signal, these vehicles would be allowed to pass on. So in a way that this understanding the meaning of behind the whole exercise is to maintain a stable order in the society. So culture actually maintains that stable order in the society. So this social anthropology, it basically concerns to understand that how the culture maintains stable and harmonious relations in the society. And suppose if that culture doesn't create such sort of healthy atmosphere, it also tries to understand why that culture is not creating such stable atmosphere. So my dear friends, so this culture means that anything acquired by members of society is called culture. In other words, culture means it is a way of social life. It is a way of life, we can say. So whatever material and non-material things a man has acquired as a member of society, that constitutes the subject matter of cultural anthropology. The works of man include everything created by man's tradition, folkways, social institutions, and other social networks. So thus it can be said that American anthropologists study things not only with cultural orientation, but also socially oriented under the domain of cultural anthropology. In other words, that the cultural anthropology oblique social anthropology is tries to study everything that is available in the society. In other words, so what society constitutes, the society is composed of social structure, that what sort of what are the characteristics that composed of social structure, means what social institutions, what are the social institutions. For instance, you have educational institution, you have a marriage as a social institution, you have a family as a social institution, political social institution, economic social institution, a religious social institution, caste as a social institution. So all these social institutions were created by man, for his own sake, convenience, to create a healthy atmosphere in society. But the social structure also creates a turbulence and problems to the individuals, because sometimes a few individuals in the society, they take the advantage of those social institutions, and they tend to create unhealthy relations and atmosphere in the society, where they create disparities between the rich and poor. So in other words, this understanding of the culture, right? So which is created by man, that the social anthropology tries to understand that how the culture influences the living conditions of members of the society, and how the members of society argue and bargain with that culture, so in their day-to-day life. So that's a meaning of cultural anthropology, that one can be stated. So it can be stated that cultural anthropology is a broader term covering all social aspects of man, but emphasis on cultural aspects. For cultural anthropologists, social system is a part of society, and culture cannot emerge without a social system. So, the social and the cultural anthropology are then understood as a few branches of common discipline of anthropology, covered with the study of man and his culture in society. So, therefore, one can say that anthropology is a large and diversified subject, which is practiced in some way, somewhat differently in different countries, although it retains its distinctive character everywhere. So this is what I'm trying to indicate. Though the discipline is practiced differently in different countries, however, the distinctive character of that particular discipline is same everywhere. So this is what one can understand, my dear friends. So now we'll try to understand that how social anthropology developed over a period of time. So as a discipline, right? So from the very beginning of human life, people have been wondering about themselves and their surroundings. Therefore, it is futile to talk about the beginning of the study of man. So for the genesis of systematic thinking, all usually refer back to the Greek civilization, especially to the writings that emerged during the 5th century BC and so on. So we are not going into the aspects to study such genesis of that anthropology, the social anthropology discipline, but we are interested that how this discipline were institutionalized and formalized during the 18th century, and so on. So to trace the development of social anthropology, we will talk about the scholars and whose pioneering works gave the shape to the present day discipline, social anthropology. But to begin with, we will go to the works of different, travelers, and who actually collected the basic data, which eventually built the foundation of ethnographic study. No, I would like to emphasize here is that social anthropologists, and they basically consider whenever they go to the field, to study about a particular society and community, they employ the research methodology called ethnographic methodology, right? What is ethnography? Ethnography means the study of the race. The study, it is a study of the people, right? So what they do when they go, and generally they live with the people, because to understand a particular community and their communitarian life in terms of culture in a broader sense, that it is not easy task, because when you go to the social setting of a particular community, and suppose if you go tomorrow early in the morning and collect some data and come back in the evening, it is not that. And you cannot understand the cultural aspect of a particular community by staying 1 day or 2 days. It requires lots of amounts of time that needs to be spent in the field, right? The social anthropologists, they go to the field, they stay with the communities, they understand the living patterns of those communities, and in a way, through participant observation, and in fact they live with them. I can give you an example. Now, I think, as you all might be aware, that we have a famous anthropologist called Hammondorf, right? Hammondorf is a person, and is a very good scholar, anthropologist, oblique sociologist also. But he came to Adilabad, during 1930s, no, 1930s, somewhere in between that period. And he went to the Adilabad and to study Gond tribal cultures. And he also went to Chenchus in the Nallamala forest to study their cultures. And Hemant have spent years of time, in trying to understand the ethnographic nature of those particular tribes. So what he has done, he went and stayed with them, and he learned their language, and he learned their culture. Because why he has done in that, why he followed the participant observation method, because whenever you go to a particular community, it is not easy, right? We, as a as an outsider, suppose if I go to that particular community, what they do first, the first thing is that they will ask me not to come, because it's establishing the trust, between the outsider and the particular community. It takes a lot of time. So after establishing the trust, then they feel that, I belong to them. It's basically is that, whenever you respect that culture, and he tries to understand that culture. So in a way, this Hemantov also, he did the same thing during his research methodology, during his ethnographic study on Gonds, and also the Chenchus. So he went there and he stayed with them for years, and he wrote an beautiful ethnographic account of the tribal life of Gonds, and also the tribal life of the Chenchus. In fact, those two books were so important in present days to understand the significance of social anthropology discipline, in a way that, that social anthropologists, they follow the method of ethnomethodology, ethnographic studies. And because through this ethnographic study, they it allows the scope to capture and document and analyze the cultural patterns of the particular society, communities, more importantly the tribal communities. So uh, so uh, uh, so this is the meaning of the social anthropology, my dear friends. So, as I said that, that the methods of social anthropology, as I discussed, that they followed social anthropologists follow ethnographic methods by staying with the people, and through participant observation, and so on and so forth. So, social anthropology may be discovered as the scientific study of man, culture, and society. The objective is to know the truth about the affairs of society. It seeks to develop skills so that human beings can live a better life. For this, employment of scientific method is essential. If there is a science, there is certainly a method. Theory, method, and data go together. So this is where we say that, social anthropology as a discipline is a scientific discipline, because it follows certain scientific procedures in analyzing and documenting, analyzing, and theorizing the data that they collect from the communities. So, what is unique to social anthropology is that it is its fieldwork methodology. Unlike other disciplines in the social sciences, that social anthropology as a discipline, it is a very unique in nature because it is this the unique nature and actually made this discipline so famous, so popular in the social sciences, because this is through this ethnographic study that the social anthropologists, they go to the field, they collect the data, and they come back and analyze and write it, and they publish it in the form of books. And those books stands one of the sentinel books, in trying to understand the tribal communities. For instance, we have a lot of books on the tribal communities. So each community has its own distinctive nature in terms of culture, language, the marriage patterns and kinship relations, political system, and so on and so forth. So all these accounts were written by social anthropologists. Now those textbooks are very useful not only for academicians but also for the policymakers. And now today, the government of India or the state government and who wants to develop and empower tribal communities, and in fact, the social anthropology studies plays a crucial role in understanding the nature of tribal communities, in nature of the rural communities, and so on, and so forth. So my dear friends, and this is where the social anthropology is unique because of its fieldwork methodology, and in fact that has become the guiding force for this discipline. So as I said that this social anthropological research, fieldwork tradition and empirical tradition have been constant characteristics of social anthropology. In fact, it started all with the travel accounts written by travelers and who had been traveling to distant corners of the globe for about 400 years, since the age of Columbus and uh, 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 Vasco da Gama and so on and so forth. So what they done, it's like they whenever they travel and discover a new place, they used to write what people do in that particular culture. In fact, that sort of tradition actually triggered to develop the discipline of social anthropology, my dear friends. So, in fact, the anthropologists of 19th century were totally involved in exploring the variety of human culture, but they were apart from the rigorous life of actual field. Sitting in their home, they simply looked into the accounts served by other people. The value of fieldwork was realized at the beginning of 20th century when the outlook of social anthropology changed. It was understood that experiencing the real life situation was very important for the social anthropologists to get accurate and relevant data. So many anthropologists of the time engaged themselves with the group of aborigines, right? So in other words, that just sitting in the classroom and just imagining about the particular community and write something through their own social imagination doesn't make any sense, right? Now what makes sense according to the importance of social anthropology is that they should go to the field and collect the relevant, accurate data, and come back and analyze the data. So it's a real time situation experience. So that experience comes only when you go to the field and conduct a research, field work tradition. So once you do that and you collect the relevant and appropriate data. So this is where the social anthropology always encourages the fieldwork traditions to go to the field and understand the cultures of different communities and get the proper data and analyze the data and theorize the data and publish the data. So it's like it follows certain scientific procedures to try and understand the cultures of different communities, cultures of different communities. So, my dear friends, So, therefore, in this class, I think we have covered, the importance of social anthropology, and in the next class, and we will be trying to understand the nature and scope of social anthropology, and we'll be covering more such details in the next class. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.